Everybody, thanks for watching, and just a quick reminder that the next 4 books in the biblical series is now available. Joshua, Judges, Ruth, and 1 Samuel is now available. Definitely check those out. But this is basically what they would call the histories of the Bible. So we just got out of the 5 books of Moses, which is the law. The next 17 books will be considered the history. So of course we got to get into this and to really get people to understand, the history. And it brings us, to this video and really getting into the question which many people ask, and that's the history of the Bible. What is the history? What do we know about the book itself as far as the history of the book? And it's something that I, of course, touch on in my videos and understanding the history. So again, you have biblical history and you have actual history. This is the thing that the people get confused and don't really want to, address the 2 separate histories. And you have to accept one. And that's the thing. Biblical history tells us that, we get the books, the Torah from Moses, and then we understand, what happens later with the Council of Nicaea and the New Testament, and how the Bible describes how the New Testament comes into play, and we have the prophets and what have you. We also look at the fact that you have the Catholic Church bring about a lot of manuscripts and biblical books from, the Codex and Latin Vulgate, what have you, and you follow the history on to the to England and the creation of the English Bible. We have the Bishop's Bible, we have the Great Bible, what have you. We have the Geneva Bible. We have so many different Bibles, as I talked about before the King James Version, and getting into the one that would precede all of these books is definitely something that people need to look into, and understanding about the Septuagint Greek, and understanding when you hear people express that you have the Old Testament written in Hebrew, that of course we never had the Old Testament written in Hebrew. As I talk about in my videos, we only get the Septuagint Greek, and we only get an explanation of the Septuagint Greek outside of the Bible. And the Septuagint gives us, an early explanation of how it came about. And this is what people need to look into, the letters of Orestes, as I talk about in my series on, the Hebrew Israelites. But the history, of the book, and going back and trying to figure out where it came from. This is where it's going to lead you, and it's up to people to really make their decision from that point as to follow the book based upon that history or the biblical history. Now, if you follow the biblical history of the book, it's going to take you into all kinds of things that it's not going to be able to be proven, and it's going to leave you with a lot of questions. And the more we look into the true history of the Bible, this is where you're going to find a lot of flaws, a lot of problems with the book when it's talking about the manuscripts. And this is what a lot of people get into in studying the history, is the many manuscripts that was created to give us the books that we have today. But you still have to come away with the understanding that these books come from, or was copied from, the Septuagint Greek, and that we do not have a biblical manuscript that predates it at all. That's important to note for people who are really trying to understand what's taking place in the Hebrew Israelite doctrine, that when you go back as far as you go and look at the history of where the book comes from, it begins with the Greeks. The Hebrews will talk about King James and the King James Version, and how King James was a black man, and how we basically get the true translation of the Hebrew law, or the Hebrew Bible, or the Bible itself, from King James, and that we should basically ignore the rest of the books, which it's up to you guys to really understand that. But you have to understand that none of the books that predate the King James Version, including the King James Version itself, cannot exist without the Septuagint Greek. And we follow that. So when we get into the errors of the Bible, the many books and passages that was written, things that was taken away, things that was added, so on and so forth, It's not so much of the history of the book, it's the validity of the book. That's the issue. That becomes the main focus of the Bible, the validity, and getting people to understand that we're not talking about a literal book of events and things that actually occurred, but this is a book that has a deeper meaning to it, as I talk about in many of my videos. So, for the people who have not seen all the videos, and a lot of people are new to the channel, and a lot of old videos I put up and really getting into this stuff, really tried to get people to go and look at some of the older videos. That's Game, the Bible and Christianity Finally Explained. It's definitely a video you should watch. People who are interested in the Hebrew Israelite doctrine should watch the videos I have on the Hebrew Israelites or what have you. And I'll be getting a lot of new people to the channel, and I appreciate you guys subscribing and really supporting the channel and everything. But definitely you want to go and look at some of the older videos that has answers to a lot of the questions on the Bible and Islam. At this point now, after you have after I've been through so many different people and different religions and talking to so many people, I'm not willing too much more to put out my opinion on what people should do as far as the Bible. And it's up to people to read it and to really for themselves figure out what they want to do. You want to accept truth, you want to accept fact and proof or what have you, or you want to trust blind faith. And it's weird that you have so many people coming to YouTube that's supposed to be in faith in their religion, but they're on YouTube, they're on social media, they're all over the internet trying to validate something that they supposed to have faith in. Faith is you walking with faith, you walking without knowledge or understanding, you having a firm belief that what you believe is true is true. Now, if you believe something is true and you have faith, then what are you here for? What are you looking for? You are supposed to just go along with what you have been told and not to seek out any type of confirmation or any type of confrontation that's going to, give you validity for your doctrine. That's what faith is all about. You sticking with what you say and believe is true and not going out there and cussing people out because they don't believe as you believe. So what I believe is the people who really want the truth is going to find the truth. The people who want to play games going to play games. It's just that simple. So, the questions I get about people wanting to know the history of the book, it's going to be up to you to accept that history or to just accept what the Bible is saying, plain and simple. So if you want to believe how the book came about and, the way that it has been described to us in church, it's up to you to accept that. If you want to look at facts and proof and what has been proven to be true and, do your own research, then you're all welcome to, go ahead and do that. And this is going to be the best way for you to really come to the conclusion that you want, that you can accept, is when you do the research on your own and you are not told, what to believe or what to think. So I can give you the background and history of the book, and it's not going to sway you if you don't really understand it. If you really don't do the research on your own and really look at what it's talking about. As I said, I have the videos out there that's on YouTube, so you can take a look and really understand where this book is coming from and everything that it entails, even when it comes to the Torah, the Quran, or what have you, what all this stuff is actually stemming from. So it's up to people to accept it and to really believe what they want to believe, because it's not going to do you any good to just have people tell you what you want to hear or frustrate you with answers or frustrate you with even more questions. It's better when you just go out and look and do the research. The best place to start, as I said, ancient Greece with the Septuagint with LXX. Take it from there and you'll see exactly where it leads you. Now, the biblical series that I have started is basically the insight into the books itself, going deeper into what the verses is talking about and what it's really trying to tell us. So if you started watching it, you understand, what I'm talking about. But it's to really get people to really look at the Bible differently. It's tough for people to, look at the book, start reading it, and really understand what a lot of it's talking about. And the Bible gives you a lot of unnecessary things. Like when you look at the, book of Joshua, half the book is basically the conquest of the Israelites, and then the other half is basically them splitting up the land. So you have, well, the last 12 is basically them telling you exactly what people got what and what they got, and so on and so forth. So it's a whole 12 verses, a whole 12 chapters dedicated to just that. And we see this a lot, with genealogies and things like that in the Bible, where a lot of the chapters is taken up by just pointless information that we don't need to know at this point. So some people try to read that stuff and they get confused and they get bored and they just stop reading the Bible altogether. So you got to understand where this stuff comes in at, and not to really read it or really try to understand it at this point. So my idea in putting out the series was to get people to really understand what this stuff really is talking to, and how it pertains to our situation today, and to where we are at today as a people, because the Bible is giving you a lot of clues that people believe is prophecy, but as I talk about, it's just an agenda of the people who basically wrote the book, believe it or not. But it's a lot to it. It's a lot more deeper things as you're starting to see that the book entails, that we see today, and that people would have never thought would possibly be in there. So the series is a good series, but as far as the true history of the book, no one can really give us that. We can only go back to where we have the proof of the book's origin and look at all the facts that surround the book. The book is with flaws. You got people walking around talking about this inerrant, inspired word of God. It's bullshit. It sounds good, but the book has flaws, many of them. The book has errors and mistakes. It's not a case where you can prove that God divinely inspired the book and, put a spirit on people and got them to write these verses. If you look at the summary, you look at the arguments against each book, every scholar, everyone will tell you something different about the book. Like Joshua, like Judges, like First Samuel, they will tell you that, one, these people most likely didn't exist. They most likely didn't write the book during the time that it was said to be written. That even though these are supposedly the histories of the book, of course, we can't find nothing proving the history. So when you look at a lot of the claims that the book have, like when you have the book say that people have heard about the Hebrews and that the word about the Hebrews is spreading, it says that within the Bible, but we don't find that outside of the Bible. So common sense would tell you that if the Hebrews are out conquering, the way the Bible says the Israelites are, that people would have written about them, and we would see some kind of mentioning of this conquest of the Hebrews, in real history. But, that's one of the reasons why when you read in the Bible, God tells them to utterly destroy everything, kill all the people, and kill all their idols or what have you. Destroy all their stuff and just take their, stuff that's good, the livestock, and split it up between the people, what have you. So it gives them the ability to say, well, God told them to destroy everything, to kill all the people and destroy everything. So you can't write nothing about the Hebrews, because it wasn't nobody allowed to write anything or to leave any proof of their existence. And that's convenient for them. But it still wouldn't explain the other outside civilizations that could have and should have been writing about the Hebrews, especially when we find them writing about the other ancient civilizations, such as the Greeks and the ancient Egyptians and the Phoenicians and ancient Romans or what have you, but nothing on the Hebrews at all. So that's really suspect. Now, it's important to find that history with the Hebrews, because it all starts with the Hebrews. And if you can validate anything that proves, that shows their existence during the time it says, then, it gives more validity to the book. But we have zero, zilch, nada, nothing. All the artifacts, when you pay attention to them, are said to possibly be of Hebrew origin. The language is possibly, Hebrew or what have you, Paleo Hebrew or what have you, and nothing really gives validity to any of the so-called artifacts that has been found. And again, it's still the whole point of us never having a Hebrew manuscript that predates the Septuagint Greek, and that seemingly poof, we get the Septuagint Greek out of thin air from the Greeks, from Ptolemy II Philadelphus, who was a conqueror of the Egyptian people. And it's nothing to really back up anything that, that begins with the Bible. It's nothing. Septuagint, LXX has been proven to be, a falsity. Nobody gives real validity to it, which is why I said out of thin air, we get this Septuagint, and nobody seems to go back past that point to try to figure out where this stuff came from. Instead, they go into the Old Testament and give all of the, the beginning, the creation of the book, to Moses and everything that happens in the 5 books. So again, you have to make your decision to look at the facts, real life stuff we can prove, or the book where there's absolutely no proof at all of the origin or how this book came to be. We don't have no Ark of the Covenant. We don't have none of this stuff that the book is talking about, nor can we prove it ever existed. So again, it comes down to, what you're willing to accept, your faith or facts. A lot of people out there having issues and struggling to convince people about the validity of the Bible, and it's a waste of time. Let people who want to come into the truth come into the truth. If you have the knowledge to express to them, your research and what you have found, and to answer the questions, which is going to be the big obstacle, because people are going to have questions. If you can do that, then you're able to kind of sort of get your point across, to get people to understand what has taken place and what the Bible could possibly be. Other than that, I wouldn't waste time arguing with religious people, because, they live in a world that doesn't make sense. They follow a doctrine that doesn't make sense. They follow things that don't fit and make sense based upon a faith that they don't follow. So it's crazy, and it's weird. But I understand people want to know, and a lot of people out there looking to validate what they have put their emotions into and what they claim they represent, but really don't. So it's a question that people can answer for themselves, and they can look and do the research for themselves as far as where the book has its origin at. Again, so I have a lot of videos out. I have over 500 videos on YouTube, so many videos on the Bible. But I appreciate people taking the time to really look into the matter and ask the questions about the Bible, because it's still to this day has a stranglehold on so many people. And I hate to see grown men and people who I consider to be smart, strong people, falling for the lie, due to lack of research, lack of knowledge, and what have you. And people just plain lazy, who don't want to read and do the research, who rather run around and act like they, belong to this religion and they rep this religion when they clearly do not. Again, if you're on social media, you better read your Bible. You shouldn't be on social media. You shouldn't even be watching this video. You should not be on YouTube if you consider yourself a Christian. So you have that point. And a lot of people will argue you to death about that, but it's clear as day in the book when you understand if you actually read it. So a lot of things that people do, they try to justify with them, being on some kind of spiritual path, or them, trying to basically defend God and the Bible or whatever. It's a bunch of bogus shit when you really get into it. So at the end of the day, if you want the truth, you got to go look for it. And when you find it, you have to accept it. Other than that, it don't matter. So, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch. And definitely grab these next 4 books of the Bible. And, the question about the Bible and its inception anyway is definitely something that you should be, if you are involved in church, you definitely should be asking your preacher about. And that will give you a clue, as to if you're on the right track or not. Because if he gives you the answer I think he's going to give you, then, that's going to be enough for you to look deeper into the situation. So definitely do that. And, thank you guys for taking time to watch. See you next video.